Hello and welcome to the Metal Pack Pod, the industry's leading podcast for the global metal packaging industry. The Metal Pack Pod is brought to you by the Metal Packager, the number one digital resource for the global metal packaging market. With over 5,500 monthly users in over 130 countries, be sure to check us out on metalpackager.com. I'm your host Alex Fordham, and joining me today is an episode from our sponsors, PPG. We're proud to partner with you and thank you for supporting the Metal Pack Pod over the coming months. Their range of innovative and sustainable solutions enables its customers to protect and beautify the world. Today we welcome Amy Ericson, Senior Vice President, Packaging Coatings and Specialty Coatings and Materials. Prior to joining PPG in 2018, Amy was President of SUEZ Chemical Monitoring and Solutions after SUEZ acquired General Electric's Water Services Company in 2017, where she previously served as President. Whilst at General Electric, Ericson helped lead the organisation's water purification efforts while managing the growth and profitability for its business composed of over 2,700 employees. In her current role at PPG, Amy is continuing her passion for mission-driven work with PPG in its efforts to protect and beautify the world. In today's episode, we talk to Amy about the issues of the day, including supply chain challenges, employing good people, and women in metal packaging. We hope you enjoy today's show. So, hi Amy, thanks very much for joining me on today's podcast. It's been a pleasure to track you down. I know you've been a very busy lady, so very much appreciated for you joining us today.
Well, I'm looking forward to the discussion for sure. Thanks, Alex.
No, pleasure. So, been reading PPG's 2021 strategic report, so it makes for a very interesting reading. I just wanted to sort of, as an introduction really, just focus on a few of the key statistics. Growth of 10% year on year as a company, so it sounds like it's been a particularly busy and vibrant time for PPG. Obviously we'll get onto the packaging coatings side of things a little bit later on, but if you can just perhaps provide a bit of context for our listeners about the goings on at PPG at present.
Sure. Well, the coatings end segments and markets are quite active. We're seeing good end market demand. I mean, you see the growth, you quoted the growth in those numbers, but it's also been a pretty unprecedented time for, I would say, over a year, concerning inflation, concerning supply chain disruptions, really across the world. I guess I would say that this past 15 months has not been for the faint of heart. So we've been very busy. And, in times like this, which is, very disruptive, a little bit chaotic, it's really important that companies be agile. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we've been focused on to sort of lessen the impact of the supply disruptions. We were already on a journey to get as local as possible to our customers, really across the company, because that closer proximity means that you can respond faster to the customer base. We've also learned that it's really important to understand those critical raw materials and input costs and make sure that we're managing those as best as possible. We're a very global company. And we're also a very cross-business unit company. So while I run the packaging coatings business and the specialty coatings and materials business, we actually rely on the rest of PPG to make sure that we're best serving our customers. So what this means is if we can't get a certain raw material, we need to make sure that we're able to leverage cross-regional, cross-business unit qualifications that exist. Mm-hmm. So that has helped us to make us more agile. But then as well, it's a two-way street in terms of supply chain. And we've been working extremely closely with our customers and really working on more accurate, more real-time forecasting, helping to sensor them up so we can understand with more accuracy what their supply level is. And then, we've been providing some backup supply as well, extra totes here so that we can react faster. So lots of growth, that's the good news. And markets are quite strong. We're recovering quite nicely across the company from COVID, and we are exercising as much agility as possible this time.
There's certainly a lot to dissect there, but I'll start with, I think we'll concentrate on the positives. You mentioned about the industry and being in a good place. I know as the Metal Pack Pod, we cover the metal packaging industry as a whole, and we're talking about certainly on the beverage can side, 4% growth year on year, which is really positive. experts within the industry have said a sort of note of caution regarding sort of beware of external factors, which you have mentioned, which is terrific. But certainly on the packaging coating side, where do you see you guys? Are you in a good place, would you say, at the moment? You're talking about real strong growth within the industry. Yeah. So we'll talk about the positives first of all. So if your just take on how things are on the packaging coating side.
I think both for the industry and for PPG, we're in a period of real secular growth. And that's because of the metal. That's because of aluminum being infinitely recyclable. I think the public and the consumers are increasingly aware of the benefits of packaging in the aluminum substrate. And so you see, particularly on the beverage side of the metal packaging industry, very solid growth. There's investment going on in can making capacity. And when there's investment going on in can making capacity, that means we need to invest in coatings capacity. So we are out there investing in every region to make sure that we can serve this growth market that we are happy to provide coatings to for the protection of consumers and, quite frankly, for the benefit of brands to differentiate their products on the store shelf.
Absolutely, and perhaps we should say to listeners that we are here at Latam Can Trade Show, so in Sao Paulo in Brazil. So what you were referring to there, I think, about growth within all territories rather than just sort of concentrating on the North American side of things. So I suppose that's been part of your remit this week, is about seeing the potential growth within packaging coatings for this territory.
Absolutely. So we've seen great growth in the Latin America region, both as an industry and as PPG packaging coatings. And consequently, we're investing in technology for the region. We are investing in production capacity in the region. We already produce locally, but we're expanding that to cover some of the new technologies we have coming onto the market. And I would say that we're seeing in this region, just like we've seen in the US and in Europe, a focus on removing bisphenol A from coatings. It has already happened in the US, it is happening in Europe, and we're getting quite a few expressions of interest for non-BPA packaging coatings here in Latin America. Luckily, we already have the leading non-BPA, non-bisphenol solution for inside the beverage can in terms of coatings. And so we already have the technology. Mm-hmm. We already have great production capacity, and we're just investing to make sure we can bring all of our non-BPA solutions to the market here.
Amy, I'd just like to touch upon one of your points that you mentioned there regarding BPA. Certainly a huge issue in the industry. When I first joined the industry sort of 10 years ago, is it still as much of an issue for consumers, do you think? And certainly from packaging coatings companies, it's still very much top of the agenda for you guys?
Definitely. We're still in the conversion phase of going from BPA to non-BPA around the world. The US is very advanced, the Europe is advanced. But we see other regions going now to non-BPA. But I mean, as you said, when you came into the industry, it was a topic. And I can tell you that we innovated our non-BPA inside spray for beverage cans. The brand name is Innovel. We've been providing it for 10 years. So we were ready when France came up with their ban and when California put restrictions on BPA. Consequently, we are the leading supplier of non-BPA coatings inside the beverage can. And as you can imagine, as with every first generation technology, there's room for improvement. And so we're now introducing our next generation non-BPA inside spray. It's called Innovel Pro. And, the can makers, they want their non-BPA spray to work just like epoxy BPA did years ago. And that means it needs to be robust. And so it needs to spray and it needs to run like the old BPA epoxy. And we've now accomplished that with our non-BPA solution. So Innovel Pro, I had mentioned that we're investing in capacity around the world. Innovel Pro will be a big target for this capacity expansion. So it's pretty exciting.
And seeing as you refer to sort of product ranges, I know at the moment you're very keen on the iSense range, so perhaps Correct. If you can just provide a bit of context for our listeners who perhaps aren't quite as au fait with PPG's ranges at the moment. So if you could perhaps provide a little bit of an overview of the iSense.
Sure. Well, iSense is all about the outside of a can. It's about everything sensory. So the look of it, the feel of it, the touch of it, the beautiful colors. And really it's driven by brands because they're responding to consumers in the marketplace that, want to have some personalization, some customization in the package that they're drinking their beverage from. And so whether it be the feel, the look, the shape of the can, this has been a way for beverage brands in the industry to really differentiate and to really market their product. And so what that means for us in terms of packaging coatings is we have to make sure that, our typical glossy over varnishes can now, not only change in appearance, change in touch, but also get more flexible because you see the shapes of the cans are changing like crazy.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to keep up with the consumer trends that the brands are explaining to us.
And is that from your customers' demand as well, that because metal packaging is booming in some sectors, particularly the beverage can sector, that personalisation and point of difference on the shelf is becoming increasingly important for customers, I assume?
Absolutely. And it's not just beverage. We see it in the personal care space as well. I mean, brands are looking to identify better with the individual consumers, but also in the food space. There are some creative shapes going out there in the market. And every time you see a can out there, we've got to have coatings that can go along with whatever the shape and the look and the feel is.
Do you think sometimes, as perhaps this is from a metal packaging professional's point of view, that we get a little bit too caught up on the beverage can side sometimes, and actually there is quite a bit of innovation in, although it's not always been seen as the sexiest end of the market, but the food can sector, personal care market, there is real innovation going on there, and I suppose for PPG there's no different.
Without a doubt. In fact, I have this discussion all the time with my food customers, with my personal care customers. They're equally as motivated for whatever innovation they can bring to the shelves. And they are equally facing regulation out there that is forcing them to change the way that they're coating their cans, the way that they're protecting consumers. So, and let's face it, aluminum in personal care is equally as recyclable. So the same proposition for sustainability exists there. So really, I see a lot of the same industry vectors pointing upward across our segments.
Yeah. You mentioned there about legislation, and that sort of leads me nicely on to my next question. So the last podcast we did was with Mark Smith, who is an expert in metal packaging and very much focuses on the statistics, trend side. And he said that for metal packaging, our time is now, but beware of external factors. So would you say that is particularly true at the moment, certainly for PPG, that the industry is doing very well, but we getting onto the issues of supply chain legislation, that we need to be sometimes an industry is at its weakest when it's at its strongest? Would you sort of subscribe to that notion?
Well, yeah, I think that challenges are also opportunities, right? And opportunities are best met with industries and companies that invest in future trends. And that's what we do at PPG in terms of what's in our coatings, but also in terms of, again, like I said, how do we make sure with our incredible global footprint that we are as agile as possible? We have, as a matter of fact, innovation centers around the world, and they're not only innovating new solutions for our customer base, but they're also looking at our existing solutions and trying to figure out, okay, how can we do this more effectively, more cost effectively, so that we can make sure that our customers, our industry, and indeed metal packaging is as competitive as it can be.
Absolutely. You refer to supply chain issues. I mean, is there anything you could share with our listeners about how PPG have remained agile during this period? Because I know it's certainly been a challenge for us all, but no doubt you guys, it's been equally as tough.
Yeah, so I already mentioned that we were already on a journey to get as local to our customers as possible using the broader PPG network. That helps not only in terms of being able to react quicker, it's also more cost effective to deliver if you're closer to your customers. So that is one way that we've been approaching it. And I mentioned alternative materials, being smart about making sure that we have multiple sources around the world so we're not caught short. And then I would also say that, we have a technical service force in every single region around the world that has incredible expertise. 600 years of can making expertise we have in our force. And so we really think in terms of total cost of ownership for our customers. So, that means taking out costs for them anywhere that we can. That could be in terms of how easily our coatings apply, how universal our solutions can be, so there's not as much switchover, and focusing on our customers' operational efficiency. And in that way, we're helping improve their total cost of ownership, which again, if you go back to the bigger picture here, that will keep metal packaging strong.
It's all well and good sort of playing devil's advocate here. I know certainly on your competitors we've seen price increases due to supply chain issues, etc. I suppose that is still inevitable in this day and age, that there's been some price increases for your customers.
It's been unprecedented. There's no doubt about it. I mean, every Wall Street Journal front page for the past 15 months, there's been some mention of inflation somewhere. And it's not just our raw materials, it's also our logistics, our transportation, our labor. It's just a reality. And we don't know what the trajectory is. But, we need to be responsible as a company. We need to be healthy as a company to continue to serve the industry. And so everything that I talked about in terms of managing total cost of ownership, it's not just about making sure that we are minimizing the impact of inflation, but it's really thinking about how our total offering to the industry can be as cost effective as possible. But it has been unprecedented.
But being able to be agile and locally means you can sort of offset some of those costings. So yeah, being agile seems to be the order of the day.
Exactly. It's been the order of the last 15 months, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. We now have a quick break to check in with our friends at PPG. As sponsors of the Metal Pack Pod for 2022, we're delighted to have support from one of the industry's leading coatings and specialty materials suppliers within the industry. Here's a little snippet from the latest at PPG.
Experience the iSense family of specialty coatings. PPG iSense Specialty Over Varnishes help beverage brands stand out on the shelf with unique effects. A tactile finish with a dynamic effect you can see and touch. A velvety, deep matte finish. A satiny smooth, medium gloss over varnish. A white base coat that makes colors pop. A bottle can and cup over varnish that enables special shapes. And a luxurious finish that shimmers and shines. Proven performance, possibilities. Learn more at www.packagingcoatings.com/iSense.
But yeah, just want to move on slightly. So obviously PPG's tagline, to protect and beautify the world. I want to just focus on that. I mean, the key is now to sort of protect the industry for the next generation, really, I suppose. So how are PPG ensuring that the next generation of packaging coatings professionals are in the industry? Because you can only walk around the show here and the industry is of a mature vintage, so to speak, in the nicest possible way. So how are you guys trying to ensure that bringing the next generation through?
Well, it's of a wise vintage. That's what I'm
wise vintage.
A wise vintage.
That's more polite than I put it there.
Yeah, exactly. But it is about that wisdom and that expertise, right? And so we're very focused on making sure that we are institutionalizing that knowledge that exists in our workforce now, basically encapsulating the experience of our veterans, of our wise veterans. And we are utilizing their skills, their expertise to develop training platforms for the future. So the focus is how do we, develop training programs that are, as you said, for the next generations, engaging, which means they need to be modern, they need to be digitized, they need to be energizing. And so we really are focused on making sure that we're capturing that knowledge, both from a technology perspective, a tech service perspective, even in our operations. We're making sure that we are capturing it, sharing it for the next generations. And actually, that helps in another way as well. It helps us to be able to cross-train, so that, this great energized new talent that we're bringing into the organization is able to apply their expertise to a broader range of topics. And this in turn helps them in their career endeavors.
And also, I suppose it's about having a diverse workforce. Obviously, more women in business, which I'm sure you're very keen to focus on. I've seen your bio here about you've been involved in sort of women's leadership network, and you're very keen on that aspect. So trying to move the industry from being sort of a mature white man's industry as opposed to trying having a diverse platform, because it brings new levels of interaction and engagement to a new audience, essentially.
Well, I am the executive sponsor for PPG's Women's Leadership Network, and I play that same role in my previous company as well. Very passionate topic for me. I've spent my entire career working in heavy technology and manufacturing industries. So, I've sort of lived it, but also I have 4 daughters. And while they're still in the education part of their life, I would like to know, as they enter the workforce, they're entering into a more just and balanced workforce than perhaps I faced. And so if you look around the conference, we still have a ways to go in terms of bringing in diversity, not just women, but overall diversity. When I speak with some leading women in industry, I always remind them that there were a lot of really brave and bold women before us who sort of paved the way for women to have really satisfying, fulfilling careers in industry. And now it's up to us to do the same. And so we've got to break some stereotypes. And I can tell you they're not true. There are stereotypes about people in operations, people in commercial roles. They're equally as inviting to women as they are to men. And we have to do a better job at sharing our experiences, what has been rewarding, what are the possibilities. I saw a statistic recently, and it might be a US statistic, so I apologize if it is, but we're now up to about women representing 60% of college graduating ranks. So it is inevitable that we're going to have more women, and we've got to make sure that that number keeps going up. But then when they finish with their education, they can better see the possibility. And that's for us to do in terms of sharing experiences. We need more strong women in powerful positions in the industry.
That's one thing I was going to mention, that, perhaps the number is going up with more women in business, but what about at the higher level? Because is there still the glass ceiling approach? Because certainly in my experience, you see a lot of women at a particular level, particular type of job, but the key decision makers, and obviously you're setting the bar high in this regard, but do you think there still is some way to go to sort of break that stereotype?
Absolutely. I mean, I will tell you that I do see, even if I just look at my own packaging coatings business, our leadership team in Europe is 50-50 male-female, which is fantastic. We need to see more of that. We are laser focused on it. So PPG just came out with its first ever diversity, equity, and inclusion report. We've set metrics for ourselves in every single region around the world. And yes, there is a focus at bringing more women into influential leadership roles, but that also means that we need to build the pipeline. So we need to make sure that as we bring or consider new talent to bring into the company, that we are opening diverse slates to take a look at in terms of bringing talent into the company. And so I think we've got the right actions in place. We certainly have the right metrics in place. I've seen it change throughout my career. I have. So I'm very hopeful that it will continue to change. And I actually see more purpose and intent in making sure that happens than I've ever seen before. And
there certainly seems a will there at PPG. So I think you're certainly correct that the future generations, hopefully these issues won't be a factor.
Exactly.
And women are treated as a business professional first rather than a woman in business second. So fingers crossed that is
and I do want to say it's not just about women.
Yeah.
It's really about diversity of thought, diversity of experience, even diversity of education, background. The more we put that into our teams that are trying to solve problems, the better solutions we're going to have and the better we're going to perform.
Yeah, because there's a danger, there's an echo chamber as a result, so you want to get a combination of thought, and I think that is certainly a challenge for this industry. And I think with the pandemic has probably shone a light on the fact that a lot of companies have challenges with leadership succession, for instance, where a lot of the key decision makers are particularly old within the industry as well. So there is a lack of leadership coming through. So I think these issues have been thrust upon us a little bit. So it's interesting times really within the industry. I think it's we're seeing a state of flux certainly, and it's exciting times though.
Dynamic, certainly dynamic. Dynamic in a good way, in a way of opportunity, and in a way of challenge. And like I said, the companies that invest in the work that they're doing, they're the ones that are going to shine. And PPG is really investing in technology, in global footprint, and in its own talent.
My final question really is obviously the elephant in the room at the moment with regards to the crisis in Ukraine. I see that PPG have been certainly very active in that regard with $500 million donation to the cause. I mean, how's that impacted on business, and has that also been something that PPG they want to become more than just a business, but you want to be an ethical business and a sustainable business as a result? So these factors are not crucial to business, but also crucial to your company's culture.
Absolutely, it is part and parcel to our culture. You know, when I came in to PPG 4 years ago now, I was really struck with how focused on our local communities we are. And so if you think about it, we operate globally. So we're in, hundreds of local communities around the world, and our workforces are very energized by making sure that we're giving back to those communities. So, people can look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and the region and look at it through the lens of business and how is it going to impact business. But really, I was pleased that PPG took a look first at how does it affect our employees, how does it affect the communities in which we operate. And so that's what you're seeing there in terms of how we feel we can support what's going on there.
And just an ending footnote, is there anything to add? I mean, certainly the conversation, I'll get the feeling that PPG are in a good place, certainly positivity, but it's cautious optimism, so to speak. So is that how you would assess the industry at the moment?
I believe that we are in an excellent space in terms of coatings, and not just packaging coatings, but all the end markets that we serve. We invest in our expertise and it makes a difference. And I feel great about the future. We will always have to navigate things that come up along the way. But let's go back to the topic of agility and the topic of making sure that we're investing in our skill sets. And I'm absolutely confident that we're going to do fine in the coding space, and it's a great space to be in.
That's a great note to end. So I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so thanks very much for taking the time to chat to us. And we'll speak to you soon, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks.